here's your check-in for Module 2. It's going to be briefer than the ones that you've seen before, I promise. Just a word about my background here, which I'm unable to blur. Uh, many folks that you see have walls and walls of academic texts behind them. So you just have to take my word for it that that wall is in front of me, actually. What's behind me are lots and lots of fabrics and mosaic materials and so on. So my two main hobbies are sewing and mosaicing. And so this room serves as both my craft room and my hobby room. Little bit more about me. Don't want you to think I'm not taking this seriously, though. So this is just a check-in for Module 2, thinking about gender. First of all, I hope you had a good experience with Module 1 and you began to get familiar about how the course components work together and the kinds of thinking and activities that are expected of you in this course. I hope some of the ideas resonated with you, but also challenged you. You may not have thought of some of them before, or you may have been thinking about them for a long time. Remember, you don't have to accept everything that we talk about, but you need to give it a good hearing, and you need to think critically, perhaps, about why these perspectives don't jive with your own. Think about that in the context of the course material, the readings that you do, and the discussions that we have. So, Module 2 takes a look at what thinking about gender and the ways that we have thought about gender for the past several decades. So, obviously, the field's changed from women's studies to women's and gender studies. So from the early 1970s, we began to develop programs that investigated patriarchy and androcentrism based on early work done by such icons as Betty Friedan and others. And this was groundbreaking and essential work that posed questions to society that had not been raised much in public before. While this era encouraged feminism in a white Western mold, it is still very important foundational work. But by the 1990s, or what we call the second wave of feminism, we began to realize that just adding women and stirring didn't really make very much difference to the final cake. We needed to look more closely at the context for racialized, disabled, older, neurodiverse, and other women who did not identify with their gender, and also women living in different sociocultural contexts. We needed to look at gender as a sociocultural phenomenon and interrogate the experiences of not just girls and women, but all other genders and sexual orientations as well, including men and boys. And ask, what is gender? How do notions of gender include the big issues of power? How does gender influence our relationships, our freedoms and responsibilities, our places at school and home and work? By the way, just a reminder to introduce yourselves, because this is important to the level of engagement in the course, not only for you, but for us and for your peers as well. Gender, in other words, share your pronouns, okay? Gender is something that we learn from the people around us and from the stories that we tell and share. Gender is something that we do. We are shaped by it, and then we also shape it. It's something that we learn to do. We watch our parents, our teachers, our siblings, actors, politicians, and so on. We learn what our culture means when it says, girls don't act that way, or man up. Gender, I've been, guilty of people. Gender is represented to us in so many activities: fashion, art, religion, political discourse, on TV, in the lab, through algorithms, online algorithms, for example, that we just soak it up and we don't even think about it at times. Unless you are challenging gender roles and stereotypes, usually because of an exclusionary experience you or a loved one has had or observed, or maybe because you're a feminist and this is always top of mind. Gender is really a system of classification that shapes much of our modern Western ideas. One of its problems is that gender reflects dualism, or two binaries, and we know that there are many stops along the gender spectrum. These classifications tend to be hierarchical, from undesirable to best, and of course are embedded in, reflect, and continue to shape all of our power relationships. As you work through the module, use your critical inner eye to reflect on your personal experiences so far with gender. And we're going to pick up these ideas again and again in the following modules. So enjoy Module 2, and pretty soon you'll be talking to us in the forum. Goodbye, everybody.